This episode is brought to you by Buzzshot, Cogs by Clockwork Dog, PG's Playhouse, and Patreon supporters like you.
Hey, escape room owners! Are you still trying to solve the marketing puzzle? Buzzshot to the rescue. Buzzshot is the secret weapon powering business growth and improving the customer experience. This is software with a ton of pre- and post-game features, including waiver management, creating incredible branded team photos, and streamlined review management for Yelp, TripAdvisor, Google reviews, Facebook reviews, wherever people review. And they also offer integrations with Cogs.
Buzzshot is a company that is committed to two things: reliability and constantly expanding their offerings for their customers. One example of this is their Event Manager. This is a new feature, and the Event Manager is designed to help support the shift to larger group games and the need to manage corporate bookings. These are really important things for escape room businesses to make the most of their weekday bookings. And also, it's something that allows escape room companies to host really large groups. This is the kind of thing that Buzzshot empowers escape room creators to do when they roll out new features. Layer on top of that those new features are backed by the reliability of a company that has been around for years and is constantly working to make sure that their platform does exactly what you want when you need it to do it.
Nick Moran, creator of Phantom Peak, uses Buzzshot, and he says that we needed to work with the most reliable and robust platform available.
And Nick is always exacting in his demands of his products and services. Streamline your marketing and grow your escape room business. REPOD listeners get an extended free trial and 20% off your first 3 months with no setup fees or hidden charges. Visit buzzshot.com/repod, that's REPOD, to learn more. Link and details in the show notes. Welcome to the Reality Escape Pod, your lifeline when you need a getaway from the real world. I'm David Spira, alongside my co-host, PG Law. Together, we're exploring immersive gaming from all angles, and we'll be joined by guests who really know their stuff. Today's guests are Rita Orlov and Lauren Bello. Rita is the founder of PostCurious, the tabletop puzzle company that has received by far the most Golden Lock awards from Room Escape artists. Her products are all hits and no misses. Lauren is a screenwriter who has written on shows like The Sandman and The Foundation. Together, they have collaborated on games such as The Threads of Fate, Emerald Echoes, and one of my personal favorite tabletop narrative puzzle games, The Morrison Game Factory. Rita has also previously appeared on this show in Season 2, Episode 7. Welcome, Lauren, and welcome back, Rita.
Thank you so much for having us, David.
Thank you.
Whoa, David! All bangers in the opening intro. That's quite a feat. He almost never says that in the opening intro, but it is absolutely a true fact. I have loved every single game that has come out of PostCurious, but I was really blown away by Morrison Game Factory, so I'm thrilled that we have Lauren on to join us today. So we'll just start with Rita. Since the last time we spoke with you, you have greatly expanded the talent pool working with PostCurious as well as your level of output. And you have even leveled up the sophistication of your business. So we have a huge variety of topics to explore today, but let's just start with the origin of the collaboration between you and Lauren Bello. How did the two of you guys find yourselves teaming up?
We knew each other from the Puzzle People group on Facebook, and I guess had crossed paths at multiple points. Lauren had created the Morrison Game Factory as a special Secret Santa game that was meant to be played by one person. And then that one person raved about it so much that a bunch of other people started playing it and then were encouraging Lauren to put it on Kickstarter. And Lauren was hesitant to do that because running a Kickstarter is a lot of work. Basically means starting a publishing business, which not everybody wants to do for good reason. And I reached out to Lauren because I was curious what everybody was raving about. And I was like, can I play this game? And maybe something I would consider publishing. So Lauren sent me a copy of the prototype and I played it and I was like, this is great. I would like to publish this. Also, would you like to rewrite my first game that I want to republish? And so that's actually how we also ended up working together on Threads of Fate.
Oh, interesting. So what did you think, Lauren? Were you at all thinking about publishing the game for general audience consumption before Rita reached out to you? Or did this kind of catch you off guard, but it was just an opportunity you decided to take?
I had thought about it. I had opened up a spreadsheet, seen how much it would cost, how much time it would take, and felt like probably not. And so I was really grateful when Rita reached out and lended her expertise because I had no idea what I was doing. I don't really think that way. I do love spreadsheets, but once they have numbers in them, then no.
It's a lot. I sat in on a seminar that Rita gave about publishing your own games, and it was all spreadsheets, and it's a lot of work. Yeah.
Yeah, I do not have that skill set at all. So I'm really grateful that Rita does.
Lauren, I'm curious how you found yourself working as a screenwriter, zooming out to your professional background.
I always knew I wanted to write. For a long time, I thought I was going to write short stories and novels because I didn't really grow up watching TV or movies at all. Or if I did, it was just like the Disney movies.
I was the same way.
Yeah. It was just never something I was into. And then something clicked when I started watching TV in high school and became obsessed and was like, oh, okay, so this is it. This is what I'm going to do. And I immediately started breaking out spreadsheets and like drawing character maps and diagramming different arcs and seeing how everything was going to intersect. And I was like, oh, okay, so this is a puzzle that the writers are putting together. And I was just fascinated with the way that everything was pre-planned, the way that these storylines would collide at the special Thanksgiving episode. It was all just formulated so thoroughly, and that melded with my love of storytelling. So that's what I went after.
It's so interesting that you mentioned opening up a spreadsheet, because in my mind, when someone says they're a writer, opening up a spreadsheet is not the first thing that comes to mind when someone says, oh yeah, I'm writing. And it makes a lot of sense that that's how you organize your thoughts and that you use that same kind of organization to create a puzzle game. But what is a notable difference between writing a narrative puzzle game versus writing for television?
I think that there are fewer differences than you would think. Like for me, player experience and viewer experience, I think about them in the same way, which is when I'm writing, my thoughts are sort of like a series of waveforms and they're running simultaneously. And sometimes you can collapse them into each other and make them form the same thought. But like some waveforms that I have when I'm writing, whether it's for a game or TV, is like the adrenaline intensity pressure waveform, where I'm tracking in my mind, I visualize it as a series of pipes. And like the story is flowing through the pipes, and sometimes it's like increasing intensity, and sometimes it's speeding up, and then sometimes it's kind of slowing down and filling up the tank. And that's always running through my mind as I'm writing. Another of those waveforms is I feel like I'm building a house. And when I'm writing a scene or writing an interaction, I'm building a room inside that house. But the rest of my mind has to keep a picture of the blueprint and the context in order for me to understand that what I'm writing right now doesn't shrink, doesn't expand, it fills the exact role that it's supposed to fill. And those are images that I have no matter what I'm writing.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah. Now, how do puzzles affect the way you're telling stories? Or is it just another waveform that's going on in the background?
It depends on whether I'm making the puzzles or someone else is making the puzzles. I would say the process when Rita is giving me puzzles and I'm trying to envision the story before and after those puzzles is different from when I'm the one generating the puzzles. When I'm the one generating the puzzles, I have a lot of the context already, meaning I have the vibe, I have some images in my head, I might have some music that's playing in my mind. And so the story and the puzzles kind of flow from the same source. When Rita's giving me puzzles and I'm writing this story for them, that adds an extra step to the writing. So while normally the process might be stage 1, ingestion, stage 2, structure, stage 3, flow, when Rita gives me the puzzles, that adds an extra step of gestation, I would say, where I'm creating playlists, I'm making Pinterest boards, I'm reading a bunch of writing, and it doesn't necessarily have to be directly related. It might have a similar voice, a similar tone, a similar heart. And then I'm like taking bits and pieces of those and feathering the nest of my mind in a way that might not actually make it into the story that I'm writing, but that extra step helps me share her world before I start writing.
Makes sense to me. It's a function of where the puzzles are coming from. It works differently if they're coming from you than if they're coming from outside, and you have to figure out how to weave them into the story to begin with.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool. Rita, a few years back when we interviewed you the first time, you had just released the masterpiece, The Light in the Mist. At the time, you had branded that game as a puzzle tale, a change that I thought was good, but I didn't pay a lot of attention to. Since then, all of your subsequent releases have had the words "a puzzle tale" emblazoned proudly on the box art. What does a puzzle tale mean to you?
I think it's just a much more succinct way of trying to describe an experience that involves narrative and puzzles that doesn't necessarily say escape room in a box, because even though our games play a lot like an escape room, they don't necessarily have the structure of an escape room, in that you're not actually trying to escape from anything. And even though in most cases you have a goal, like that goal sometimes changes throughout the game, and sometimes it's not even really as important as the journey of playing through the story. It's not really necessarily about the ending, but it's more about the process. And I feel like the blending of puzzle and story can be described succinctly in the word puzzle tale, and that's what I like about it. But we've also been using that more and more as a way to try and actually bring it into the vocabulary of players.
On the subject of box art, looking at your growing catalog of games, you have some of the most magnificent looking boxes that I have seen in tabletop gaming, not just tabletop puzzling.
Thank you. We try hard.
You're welcome. What's your current philosophy on box art design?
If it doesn't look good, people are not going to want to buy it. That's kind of a big aspect of it. But also, I come from an art and design background, so of course my impulse is to make everything look as nice as possible. And I think part of the reason that I'm attracted to certain games when I'm walking around like a convention hall or even just looking online, like if there's box art that grabs my attention, then that's gonna actually have me find out what this game is about. And considering we're an independent publisher and a lot of people haven't heard of us, when we're somewhere like PAX Unplugged, for example, a lot of times people walk by our booth and they're just drawn in by the artwork, and that is what causes people to actually stop and want to find out more about what these games are. And I think that is necessary to have a growing audience.
I also appreciate that the art on your box is often very well reflected by the art within the box. They don't feel disassociated from one another, which is something that I often feel when I buy a tabletop game and the art looks amazing, and then I crack it open and it's like, oh, these don't look anything alike.
Oh, like the trailer's better than the movie.
Exactly.
And the other thing, too, is that a lot of, I think the type of gamers who would be buying your game are the kind who have like shelves of board games. They like to display them proudly, you know, and so it helps to have a beautiful cover. It's not like kids' games that are all shoved in a closet in the playroom or something. So I think it makes a lot of sense to have beautiful box art. And speaking of beautiful box art, Morrison Game Factory has just absolutely gorgeous design on the box. I just played it recently. I loved it. This was probably the first time that a board game got me pretty close to tearing up. Lauren, how do you describe this game? Because there's really nothing else like it that I have played.
It's hard to describe without spoilers. I definitely have tried to keep the main thrust of it and the main character of it a little bit of a secret when I describe it, which means that I'm not left with much to say except that it's like a whimsical journey into an abandoned board game factory and that it's about connecting across time and space in the face of isolation.
I'll say this much too, is that a lot of times you play these like escape room in a box games or these kind of narrative puzzling games. I sometimes kind of skip over the reading a little bit.
Me too.
A lot of times it just feels like your basic story, vampire, werewolf, or whatever, and it's just the framework for delivering the puzzles to you. And a lot of them out there are pretty good.
But still, a lot of them are buried treasure, something, 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 buried treasure.
Yeah, you're kind of just skimming through to look for like the one word that's highlighted that you know is part of the puzzle or something. But the Morrison Game Factory was the one time that I read everything a lot. And it's a lot of narrative. It's not one or two like letters that kind of accompany the puzzles. It's quite a bit, but all of it was really well done.
You can see why I was like, let's work on more things as soon as I played through that game.
I can definitely see it. I have to say that I don't know exactly which games would be on my Mount Rushmore of tabletop escape rooms. It's probably in no particular order. The Light in the Mist, Box 1, Morrison Game Factory. I don't know what my fourth would be, but those are basically my three. So if you are out there and you have not played this game, take some time, play it, put away the phones, just play it with someone you like, play this game. You really must play it. It is so damn good. I've just been endlessly impressed by it.
So, Rita, when we last interviewed you, your very first PostCurious game, The Tale of Ord, was long sold out because I think you had handmade 500 copies of the game, and you later released Threads of Fate, which is a beautiful remastering of Tale of Ord. So what lessons and changes did you fold into the new product?
Definitely streamlining a lot of the puzzles that people found frustrating or underclued. The first game, when I made The Tale of Ord, I was going for something quite challenging, and it was on the back of playing things like Blackletter Labs, and it was much more challenging than it really should have been, and in some cases, that was actually just a lot of places needed better signposting. So I made a lot of changes to the puzzles, and there were also a lot of points in which I felt like the story could have been stronger. There were some instances of like escape room logic in there, and Lauren really brilliantly helped me figure out how to fix these things. And I basically sent her a copy of Tale of Ord to play, and she wrote like a very long document of all of the changes that she would suggest making, and I was like, okay, you're hired.
Lauren, what were your impressions of Tale of Ord?
It was legendary, and I had been trying to play it for quite a while and signing up for all of the online spreadsheets of people who would make a list and say, like, if I get a copy, I'll play it and pass it on to you. Then you get it and play it and pass it on to this person. I had been trying for a long time to play it. So when she sent me that copy, I was over the moon that I was finally going to get to play it.
You don't have to scrounge around in the black market, the game's black market.
I'll trade you a kidney for a Tale of Ord.
It's also funny because that game is not designed to be replayed, and there was a specific mechanic in the final item that was kind of meant to preclude you from doing that. Not because I didn't want people to pass it on, but just because it was something that was written into the story. But every single person was like, I want to see what the other ending is. And so that was actually another change that we implemented for Threads of Fate. You are able to just look at both endings, because I know people were just breaking their box in order to do that, and I didn't want it to have to be broken for that to happen.
And yeah, when I got it, my impression was that it felt definitely for seasoned players. And I was a fairly seasoned player, but I did definitely have to dip into clues quite a lot. I think the biggest thing that I wanted was it had some wonderful interactivity and some wonderful moments where I felt like I was a character in the story. And I really wanted to amp that up as much as possible to feel like the story could not have happened without me. And not just the ending. I wanted to be clear on if I hadn't done this, then this wouldn't have happened. And if this character hadn't gone here, then we would never would have even known about this thing. So really tracing the cause and effect of what we were accomplishing so that people felt really, really special for having played it.
I like that. In the past, you were special for having played it because it was difficult to get your hands on a copy. And now the game is making you special for playing it. I think that's poetic.
So true.
One of the incredible things about what Rita Orlov has been doing with PostCurious is the way that she has taken her little homespun business and turned it into a proper, reliable business with a pipeline of products and a level of professionalism that very few could even dream of matching in this space. And when I look at what she's doing, I think a lot about what the Room Escape Artist team is doing to professionalize every single thing that we're doing.
And part of that means paying the people that are helping Room Escape Artist.
It's one of the things that people don't realize. We really do pay our writers. We pay our people, and we are always trying to take better care of them. And our Patreon community allows us to do just that. And we are so incredibly thankful to every single person, whether they're giving $2 a month or much more than that. Every little bit helps us become the business that we're trying to become.
It truly helps support our mission of elevating the escape room community. If you're enjoying this show, if you want to get access to our bonus episodes and our Spoilers Club episodes and all of the other benefits included in our Patreon, consider joining us at patreon.com/roomescapeartist. Your support is what helps make this show possible.
A recent Kickstarter that I have played, but most listeners will not have played when this episode releases, is Emerald Echoes, the sequel to The Emerald Flame, which is also damn fantastic. My understanding is that the two of you collaborated on this one under some unusual circumstances. What's the story behind Emerald Echoes?
Kind of an awkward one. I had worked with my ex-partner on The Emerald Flame for some of the story concept, and he had basically pitched me on creating a book sequel to Emerald Flame.
Prequel, right?
Prequel? Oh, I guess it was kind of a weird...
Kind of a sandwich.
Yeah, it wasn't really working for me anyways, but I was hesitant to pursue this for many reasons, which I won't get into, but that at some point fell apart, and I had already created 12 puzzles that were going to be part of this book, and was then left hanging with bits and pieces of narrative that I wasn't fully happy with anyway. And I reached out to Lauren and I was like, do you by any chance have any interest in writing an Emerald Flame sequel? I already have a bunch of puzzles written out for it. We can take the narrative in any direction that you think would be good. And so Lauren came up with a few different options, and we had a bunch of conversations about it and figured out a direction that we wanted to go in, and ended up deciding to make it into a boxed experience rather than a book. And I moved around some of the puzzles, added a few additional elements to it before we actually finished it up. And Lauren also came up with the researchers that are solving the puzzles alongside you to be part of the hint system, because I wanted to have an offline hint system for this game. So that's kind of how it all came together.
You have your narrative storyteller partner on tap now. That's great. I had a question, Lauren, which is, do you have like a specific writing or narrative style? I know like some authors like fantasy or, I like to write like sad, tragic stories. Or do you feel like you have a particular go-to style, or are you more whatever hits your fancy?
I like to try to find different voices, and I often feel like different stories require different voices. So I don't know that I have a go-to writing style. I think everything that I've worked on has been a little bit different and has had its own voice. And so for me, a big part of it, like for Morrison Game Factory, finding the voice of that main character was like 90% of the work, really, figuring out what that character sounded like. And likewise, in Emerald Echoes, there are multiple narrators. And so figuring out the voices of the researchers who have very different personalities, the voices of the people who are expressing themselves in these artifacts. Frida, especially, once I found her voice, that was a big breakthrough for me.
I've told Rita this. When I was playing, Lisa read all of the characters. And throughout it, whenever we play anything, whenever Lisa reads anything, she sometimes injects her own jokes and things that aren't in the text. This doesn't usually happen while we're reviewing things, but Frida has these interjections and these asides that sound exactly like Lisa. And I was really thrown off when I was like, wait, was that in the story? And she was like, yes. So
she's like, I thought we weren't doing this for review copies.
Exactly that. Yeah, so throughout the entire game, I was just so enamored with how much this character sounded like my wife, and also my wife was the one reading it. It was a very weird experience. I've never experienced anything like that in my life, but it was really special, and it was also just very entertaining.
I love Frida.
I was so delighted by that. Yeah, I really love Frida's personality and the way that she reads and all the little bits of humor that she adds, even though to her it's not even really humor, but when you actually read it, it's funny.
Which is also Lisa. She is like quietly very funny and she doesn't bring it out for everybody. But yeah, it was such a delightful and strange experience for me. So I know that that was definitely not a goal in the writing, but I will thank you for it anyway.
I'm so glad.
Rita, you recently collaborated with the institution TED Ed and our mutual friend Alex Rosenthal on the epic Pandora's Legacy, a sprawling tabletop puzzle game built around a beautiful and playful Greek mythology jigsaw puzzle. How did this whole thing come about?
In some ways, thanks to you, David, because you introduced me to Alex back when we were both living in Brooklyn. And Alex was my first playtester on The Tale of War, The Emerald Flame, and Light in the Mist.
We recommended him to you because we knew he was a beast of a puzzle solver. At the time, especially, you were writing really intense puzzles.
Yep. And he was a really great first playtester. He gave me really useful feedback, and the games honestly came out in a different shape because of his help. So, we became friends throughout all that, and we would play games together sometimes, and we kept in touch. And last year, Alex reached out to me and said, I have an idea for a jigsaw-based legacy puzzle game around Greek mythology for TED Ed, but I'm not really a 3D thinker, but I would love to have some 3D elements in this. Would you be interested in working on it? And I was like, hell yeah, because I've been wanting to do a jigsaw puzzle-based game for a long time, actually, and it fell into the kind of queue of ideas that is quite long and just, will keep growing because I'm only one person and can only do so many things. So it was actually a really lovely opportunity for me to be able to work on something that I was excited about but didn't have to be the lead designer on. And so I ended up designing the puzzles that involved physical elements, but also the die lines for the jigsaw itself, which was, although at times tedious, also wonderful experience because I really like jigsaws with weird die lines, and this was my opportunity to exercise my desire to just see that in more puzzles.
For everybody at home, The dies are used to cut the jigsaw puzzles. So they're basically giant, weird shaped knife edges that get pressed down into the cardboard and cut all of the different shapes in. So the die lines are the lines that make the shape of each and every puzzle piece in the puzzle picture.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of jigsaw puzzles, and I think Magic Puzzle Company is the only one that I've really seen actually make custom die lines with some fun shapes that are integrated into the puzzle, whereas most people tend to opt for the standard die line. And so I really wanted to play around with like, how can we make some funky shapes that are part of the jigsaw puzzle experience, but also use some of those elements in the puzzles and the gameplay.
Well, you definitely accomplished that. It's incredible, and I know this is another game of yours that I have played that most people have not yet played, but it is massive. It is so much more expansive than I had ever imagined it was. I was really dumbfounded by the scope of it, and also how hard the finale of it hit me. Some of it was the timing and things going on in the larger world than anything else. But I would just say it's a big game. It is a rewarding game. Play it through to the end. Have some perseverance on this one. I'll add on to this. The Pandora's Legacy campaign became the 918th Kickstarter to cross the $1 million threshold. That was out of 663,746 total campaigns at the time that this happened. I know because I tracked it at the moment, and I used an obscure data page on Kickstarter to sort all of this out. I have to imagine that you blew away Ted Ed's expectations. I know the game hasn't released yet, but I have to ask, sequel when?
We're working on it.
You are already.
Great.
Wow, and also congrats, Rita. Every time you drop a Kickstarter, I always check, because the minute I get the email, which means the Kickstarter has been out for like a couple hours, I check and I was like, well, she already passed her goal.
I cannot take credit for the success of the TED Ed campaign, though. Obviously, a lot of our fans backed it, which is great, but a lot of it was just people who are fans of TED Ed, and also just the various marketing efforts that they invested in it.
Before we move on from your games, gotta talk about your current project, the Ministry of Lost Things series. This game has a light, playful, and silly tone. It is super charming, but it does feel like a bit of a departure from previous PostCurious games, which tend to be maybe a little bit more serious. So talk to me about the creative goals of this series.
Yeah, Ministry of Lost Things is basically our outlet for all the sillies that we have not been putting into all of the other games. And I am a huge enjoyer of whimsical games. And what I really loved about the Morrison Game Factory as well is that I felt such a range of emotions while playing it. There were moments where it made me sad. There were moments where it made me laugh. And it was just such a lovely experience. And even though the story was kind of bittersweet, it mostly gave you happy notes. And we wanted to make a shorter game that was a little bit of an easier difficulty curve for newer players, anybody who was maybe not familiar with PostCurious, but also just people who might have enjoyed our games but wanted something that was a little bit more bite-sized or like less of a time commitment, because a lot of times people would say like, oh, I was trying to play Emerald Flame, but our group could only get together every so often, and so it's taken us 6 months to play it just because we can't schedule a date. And, you know, we wanted to make something that was easier to pick up and you could play through it in one session. And I had this idea for a world where lost things go for a while, and I brought on Mark Larson, who is no stranger to this show.
Regular on Reality Escape Pod and the game designer behind the Recon games. Also just a good friend.
Yeah, and he's a delightful human, and he had some great ideas, and he and I and Chelsea, who is the other half of PostCurious, collaborated to create the world of Ministry of Lost Things, which involved a lot of just like world building conversations about what happens in this world? How did these items behave when they enter this world? And a lot of punny lists, as the games contain a lot of puns, and the puns that have made it into the game are not even all of the puns that we thought of for this game.
I'm not surprised. You were punning all over the place.
Whoa.
So it's been a really nice bit of a good change from working on more serious projects, and a good way to like get out the more whimsical energy that we've built up over making so many more serious stories.
My perspective is just that a game creating an emotional response is the goal, and that there isn't any one emotional response that is more valuable than another. Games that make you feel afraid or sorrowful or silly, like all of these things, they're all equally valuable. Different people can have different tastes, but my personal perspective is that I just love it when a game is evocative of something. And it really sells that. And Ministry of Lost Things as a series really does a very good job of selling full-on silliness. And it's just a joy to inhabit that world. And so the Kickstarter is going on now. You should back it. There's 2 games. The latest one is the one being kickstarted, but you can get the previous one as well. Get them both. Don't just get one.
Thank you, David.
You're welcome.
We really love working on this, and collaborating with Mark has been so great. And we already have a few future episodes in mind for continuing to build on this world.
Yay. It's a great gateway series into the world of puzzling. It's something that you could play with kids. You're right. I like the bite-sized aspect of it. That's why I like Light in the Mist so much, is the little bite-sized bit, so you could just do a little bit at a time, satiate that urge, and save it for another time.
Love a puzzle snack.
What do you get when you mix pals, puzzles, and trivia? That's right, it's PG's Playhouse, our newest podcast where you can play along with our guests through some games featuring a blend of wordplay and trivia.
Then I share an interesting bit of trivia, lore, or history based on the episode's theme.
It's the bee's knees. For our game in episode 27, we imagine a world without bees, and we've changed out all the phrases with the word bee, replacing bee with a word that rhymes. Here's today's puzzle. As a boxer, it's important to be light on your feet and graceful while delivering punches that can open doors. Listen to the end for the answer.
Today's topic is unbelievable. In this episode, we explore the wonderful world of bees. I share some fascinating facts about bees, their social structures, and common myths.
To listen to this episode and all the rest, check out PG's Playhouse, available on Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can just search for PG's Playhouse or click the link in our show notes. Did you get the answer to the puzzle? As a boxer, it's important to be light on your feet and graceful while delivering punches that can open doors. The answer is float like a butterfly, sting like a key. Join us on PG's Playhouse and play along to more brain teasers like this.
I'm going to zoom out and take a look at some of the different elements of PostCurious the business. You seem to have refined the use of Kickstarter to fund and release your products in a way that many others have failed. What is the core advice that you have for other creators who are considering using Kickstarter to make games?
I think there's a lot of pieces that come together to make a successful Kickstarter project. And part of that is having a completed game that people have played and can attest that it exists, that it's fun to play. Like, I don't launch anything until it's done. I've already sent some preview copies to reviewers, so we have testimonials and people who have played it. Another aspect is just making sure that it graphically looks good, that you have good photography and very clear information, and also that it explains what the game is in a way that is comprehensible to people.
People know what they're buying.
Exactly. And also, we show all the components, even though we don't necessarily show a detail of every single component because we don't want to spoil certain aspects of the game, but we do show you a picture of like, well, this is what you're getting in this box. And I know there have been some puzzle games that have been hesitant to do that for spoiler reasons, which I understand, but people want to know what they're buying when they're giving you their money, especially when it's a product that they're not going to see for maybe 6 or 8 months or longer. So just like being able to show people that all of these things are real and that we have a track record of delivering things and that they can have the faith that we will actually send them the things that they're paying for, I think that goes a long way. Just generally, transparency and communication makes a really big difference. People know that we are going to be posting updates every month, even after the campaign is over. A lot of folks run into trouble when they start not updating for a while, and then people are starting to wonder what's going on. Are you making this game? Are we going to receive it? And that also tends to drag out longer if the game is not feature complete by the time you're launching. Because if you're still designing portions of it after the launch, it's a lot harder to account for that timeline. And so that's another reason why we like to have everything finished before we launch, because by the time we launch, we pretty much can go into production shortly afterward. And we have a much better chance of delivering to people on time.
I really appreciate how much you have done in advance and how far in advance you communicate with us as reviewers that a product is coming. You have by far the most sophisticated approach to managing getting reviews for your tabletop games of any creator that we have ever worked with. And it makes our life a lot easier because Room Escape Artists' publication calendar is locked pretty far in advance. It's a slow-moving ship when it comes to that kind of stuff. So on behalf of Lisa, who manages all of that, thank you.
Well, thank you. We appreciate what you guys do and what other reviewers are doing. And I honestly often feel like, oh no, are they going to have enough time to play through this and like actually do a write-up? But it's because like sometimes we don't get our samples as early as we want to get them and be able to ship them out to everybody. So I want to try and be as respectful as possible of people's time.
Recently, I've noticed that you have sent copies not just to reviewers, but also to influencers. And I'm wondering if there is any difference in how interactions with influencers versus reviewers goes for you.
We're just experimenting at the moment. I can't say that I have a solid report back on that, but I don't necessarily think we'll be doing a ton of that in the future. I mean, like small influencers that will charge a fee to do a video, sometimes that's helpful for us because we can use that video content for ads. And it's like something that's harder for us to produce on our own. And I'm happy to pay for that. But I feel like most of the time, influencers don't really translate to significantly more traffic, which is the hope when somebody has a lot of followers, is that people would see it and then go to the page. But I think most of the time working with, whether it's reviewers or influencers, it's really more just like people who are backing up your concept as opposed to really bringing that much of a new audience.
That makes sense. Looking at the Kickstarter account for PostCurious, I noticed that you back a lot of projects, 133 as of today, and 120 of them are specifically within the games category, and almost all of them are puzzle games. Help me understand what you're exploring in supporting these campaigns.
I like to play games myself, so a big part of it is just, this is my own preferred form of entertainment. But it's definitely also, there's a little bit of market research there in that if somebody's coming out with a new product, I want to see what they're doing. And I do want to support other creators in the space. And there are people who have sent me prototype copies for feedback. And I'm happy to give it most of the time because I also just want there to be more good games out there. And we've talked about this with regards to the escape room industry. The more good games there are, the more enthusiasts come out of playing them. And so I would much rather there be other good games that people can play and then actually get hooked on the genre rather than play a bad puzzle game and then be like, oh, are they all like this? Well, I don't want to do any more of these.
Yeah. David exposing Rita's gaming habit.
That's 133 projects in the last, what? I think I made that account in probably 2018 or something. So
fair. In total, not like in this past year.
No.
It's over
Please.
8 years.
I'm Mr. has played 1,300 escape rooms. I have no judgment here. It's more just a question of what you're looking for, what you're getting out of it. I have to say that we find out about games that we should check out and review sometimes from Rita, who will say hey, this is something worth checking out. But I will also add, we're going to be adding to Room Escape Artist a page that will explain for tabletop creators and also specifically for people who are launching Kickstarters, some basic information about what you should be doing if you want us to cover. Because we do get a lot of inquiries, and we will usually get them a week before the Kickstarter campaign has started, or 3 days into the Kickstarter campaign. And at that point, we almost certainly cannot help. We can potentially try, especially if it's a downloadable something or other, but we almost can never help at that point. So we're going to put out some information to help guide that process because we hate saying no. And we really do want to be able to support more of these campaigns, but they got to help themselves.
Oh, you mean guide the process if somebody wants you to review their game that they're about to launch a Kickstarter for?
Yes, but that also is kind of like advice to helping you get a better Kickstarter going, because if you aren't prepared enough to get review copies in the hands of reviewers with enough lead time, you're probably not ready for your Kickstarter campaign.
Yep, exactly.
So PostCurious appears to have an endless production pipeline, which is great news for us fans of your work. How many games are you currently working on?
Actively, right now, 3.
Okay, so we got some more to look forward to in the future.
Absolutely. There are many more that are not active.
It's a lot of games. And how many of those collaborations are with you, Lauren?
We're working on one together.
Oh, but so that means we have another Lauren game to look forward to also.
Can you tell us anything about it?
It is something that I've been semi-working on since 2021, and it's just been a very long gestation period, if you will. Initially, this project went through a lot of iterations in terms of story, and then I finally landed on an idea, and then I brought Lauren on to actually start working on it. But because the puzzles include a lot of physical interactions and constructing a structure throughout the game that is quite intertwined between all of the puzzles, it's been just a really slow process of figuring out what that is and what that looks like.
When we first interviewed you a few years back, you said that you were working on a game that involved constructing something, but not necessarily with right angles. Is this the same game?
Yeah, this is the same game.
Okay, so progress.
It has very few right angles.
They're all left angles. No, so I'm sorry.
This is not Peachy's Playhouse. You're not allowed to make that joke here.
Hello, chums. Alex from Cogs here with another testimonial from a big old Cogs customer. This week, I bring you a master of UK escape rooms, a pioneer in the field with a penchant for off-the-wall humour and the bluest eyes in the business. It is, of course, my friend and your spiritual king, Mr. Nick Moran, past creator of Time Run and current director of Phantom Peak, the unique, immersive open-world experience that was 13th in Blue Loop's World Top Immersive Experiences. Wow. So, Nick, what have you got to say for yourself?
We came up with the idea of Phantom Peak when we wanted to produce something that was different from a lot of things in the immersive sector. We needed systems that were reliable, that were sturdy, that were flexible, and that's why Cogs was an absolute no-brainer for Phantom Peak. I would say that if you want to make more immersive stuff, if you want to make more immersive experiences, and you're from an escape room background or something like that, the way that cogs can help you is actually by freeing you to focus on the things that matter. Make your life easier by using cogs, make your life easier by using a system that is tried and tested and can do everything you want anyway.
Oh, Nick, stop it. His eyes are much better in real life, you know. If you'd like to know more about cogs, go to cogs.show or find us on Instagram or TikTok. We also have a YouTube channel, The Cogs Lab, if you'd like to listen to our new podcast, Inventures. If you fancy giving us a go, get an exclusive 50% off our starter set plus free shipping by using the code REPOD, that's REPOD, at checkout. Cheers all!
So how do you decide which product idea, which game is the right game to take to market?
It's a matter of, can I envision this product and what it's going to look like and how will players interact with it and respond to it? And there's also a certain degree of experimentation. And like this game is definitely a little bit more of an experiment than something like Ministry of Lost Things, where we had a very clear idea of what it was going to look like. Whereas this is like changing all the time, and I'm making prototypes, and it's taken like 5 prototypes to get one that actually works.
Do you have like a house style or brand? Do you have like an ethos around the type of stories or the type of games that you publish?
Yeah, I've come to realize that the things that I'm most drawn to are something that has some degree of magic or fantasy to it, and have a character-driven story that is a little bit more intimate than we sometimes see in scenarios that have like a wider outcome, if that makes sense. Saving the world kind of scenarios.
Yeah, most of these puzzle box type games feel more like an action adventure story, whereas I think a lot of your games, they're character studies in a way.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I were to make like an analogy to movies, like when I watch something like an Avengers film, it's all action and I don't really know anything about what the people are doing. And if you're watching something that's like more of a slow burn mystery or drama, you're learning a lot more about the characters and their relationships with one another and what their histories are and how that motivates their actions in the story that you're watching. And so it's a little bit less about the plot and a little bit more about the world building. And we're always trying to create a world that is unique to the game itself.
How has your approach to game length and puzzle difficulty shifted or changed over the past few years?
They've definitely gotten easier over time.
It's good. My perseverance has gotten less strong.
Is that so?
I think so. I could be wrong. I think I'm a better puzzler, but I think I have a little bit less patience, probably because I have less time.
Yeah, I think I also realized certain things about myself when I'm puzzling. Like, for example, I was like, I don't really want to be looking at a screen most of the time. I would rather be able to solve through games without having to use hints if possible. So obviously I don't want to make puzzles so easy that they feel trivial and that you don't feel rewarded for solving them because you weren't challenged.
Mm-hmm.
And I still want to give people a challenge, but I want to make sure that those challenges are more accessible to people who are not necessarily very experienced puzzlers and don't rely quite as much on the vocabulary of escape rooms or puzzle games, and are things that like anybody can look at and figure out what it's trying to communicate without feeling like you're missing some secret knowledge that you need in order to solve that.
One of the things that I really also appreciate about the hint system, which is besides the fact that it's really granular, right? You have 12 steps, so it's not like you give the answer right away. You kind of lead them to it.
The 12-step hint program.
Yeah, exactly. But the other thing that I really appreciated about it is that it teaches you the thought process of puzzling while you're going through the hint system, right? So if you've never done any of this type of puzzling before and you are going through the hint system, it's cool because it's not just like, oh, well, this is a logic puzzle, so this guy goes here and that. It's like you're literally holding their hand and reasoning through it with them, and you explain the thought process behind it. And I find it to be very helpful for anybody who's new to puzzling and to help them learn for the next puzzle.
Thanks, BG. Yeah, that's definitely my goal. And when I'm writing hints, I typically try to be solving the puzzle, going through each step when I'm writing these hints so that they don't feel like I'm skipping ahead, because I feel like when you know how to solve something, it's very easy to skip ahead, but then you tend to lose small details that people who haven't solved it yet might actually get stuck on. And also, to answer your question about length, David, it really just depends on the game and what I think each game is going to just have a different scope. And depending on what the game wants to be, that's how long it's going to be. For something like Ministry of Lost Things, we definitely have the length as one of our constraints. Like, we want it to be 2 to 4 hours, and so it's solvable in a certain amount of time. But the game that Lauren and I are working on right now, I know approximately how many puzzles it's going to be, but I have no idea yet how long the actual gameplay time will be, because only 5 of those puzzles have even been tested yet.
Whatever it ends up being, I look forward to playing it.
Lauren, are you planning on any more kind of like Morrison Game Factory that you're fully authoring?
I do. There is something that I've been working on. I have part of it written, but it's slow going. It's very slow going. But yes, I have something in the works.
I look forward to that one too, whatever it is, whenever it comes out.
It'll be a while.
That's fine. No pressure from me. Eventually there'll be pressure, but right now there's no pressure from me. As we start to wrap things up, you mentioned that you brought on another person, Chelsea Stark, to help you run PostCurious, which was a major through line from our last interview with you, was that you were doing probably 5 people's jobs while running this business alone. How has it gone bringing another person onto the team?
It's been fantastic, and now we each only have to do 3 people's jobs. So it really helps to be able to split up that labor. But no, Chelsea is fantastic. She's also a puzzle enthusiast, and she was a fan before we even met each other. So she was excited to be working on PostCurious. And we have some overlapping skill sets, but also a lot of different skills that hers can complement certain things that I'm doing. And we work together really well.
That's great to hear. I'm happy to hear that you are not going it alone anymore, because that is tough.
The biggest thing that it has helped is just to have another person to bounce both ideas off of and to, ask questions about certain decisions where I'm like, am I crazy if I do this? It really helps to just have another voice of reason, and also occasionally somebody to rein me in when I do have terrible ideas.
We all need them. Rita, I have also been watching your growing skill and exploration of crafting stained glass, which if I had time for a crafting hobby, that would be the one that I would try my hand at. Talk to me about the joys of stained glass.
I was really hoping you'd ask me about this. I started my stained glass journey in January of this year when my wonderful partner Brennan got me a birthday gift class to make a suncatcher. And he did this because the game that Lauren and I are working on is, how do I even say it, inspired by a lot of stained glassy stuff, but most specifically, it's inspired by Gaudi's Sagrada Familia.
I had a feeling that's where all of this stuff we've been opaquely talking about for years was going. Continue.
Yep, so that's the whole no right angles thing. It's all just very like Art Nouveau-y and nature-inspired stuff.
I had solved your puzzle.
Yeah, and so I took this one-day Suncatcher class, and I was immediately obsessed. But also, I had been sketching things out in a stained glass style for a couple of years by now because I've been working on this game. So it was really exciting to actually be able to make real glass things. And I was fully prepped to just create a whole bunch of designs in rapid succession because I was just having so much fun drawing the stuff that has been in my brain for several years.
Amazing. What comes next for each of you?
I am continuing to write for TV. I'm continuing to write with Rita, and I'm continuing to work very slowly on my next game.
Yeah, I'm continuing to grow PostCurious. We're going to be attending Essenspiel for the first time this year, which, if you haven't heard of it, is a very large board game convention in Germany. We'll also be attending PAX Unplugged at the end of November, and we will be working on a third Ministry of Lost Things case next year. We will continue working on this Gaudi-inspired game. We also have another game that we are licensing that will be hopefully launching next year. This will be the second licensed game that we will have worked on after the Morrison Game Factory, and it's going to be a spooky one. So not horror, but definitely more of the spooky vibes than our other games have been. And hopefully we will be growing our team a little bit next year.
Wow, big things.
So if our listeners want to follow you, follow PostCurious, get updates on when new games are coming out, how can they do so?
You can follow us on Instagram at PostCurious. You can also go to getpostcurious.com, and if you scroll all the way to the bottom and sign up for our newsletter, we will send you a monthly update about our project as well as other cool projects that you should check out.
All right, I'll have links for that in the show notes. And how about for you, Lauren, if our listeners want to follow you and everything that you're working on, how can they do so?
I do not have a newsletter. I do not have a website. I am very rarely on social media. But if you do want to follow me on social media, I'm on Instagram. I'm Daela, Daela. There are multiple Lauren Bellos who have very similar, some of them are writers, some of them have websites, some of them have very similar emails. It's caused a lot of confusion. So I do not have any of those things.
Okay, so if there's a website, Lauren Bello website going out there, it's not her. So you heard it here, folks. We'll have the actual official links to anything Lauren Bello related in the show notes. But really, just get Morrison Game Factory and play that. That's all you need to know about Lauren.
Rita, Lauren, thank you so much for joining us. Lauren, I have truly enjoyed everything that I have played and watched that you have been involved in. And it has been really cool seeing the dynamic that you bring to the PostCurious games that you collaborate on, in the same way that it is really wonderful seeing the dynamic that Mark Larson brings to the games that he collaborates on. It's been very cool watching the journey of this singular voice grow and morph in a whole bunch of different directions. And Rita, I've been on a journey with you through tabletop puzzle gaming for almost as long as tabletop gaming has been around. I remember playing so many tabletop puzzle games with you in the Panera of mediocrity.
Rest in peace.
For so many years before PostCurious existed, and sitting there solving these puzzles and talking about what makes a good puzzle game, and watching as you keep on building and refining some of the finest ones in the business. I am constantly in awe. And that's not even getting into the ways that you have turned into a proper business owner, which, if you would have asked me in the 20-teens which of the people I know is most likely to become a competent business owner, I gotta be honest, I never would have put my money on you.
Neither would I.
But it's incredible seeing what you have built. I'm so thankful that you have come and shared your journey with us today.
Thank you, David.
This episode of Reality Escape Pod is produced by Teresa Piazza with support by Lisa Spira and Richard Burns. We're edited by Steve Ewing of Stand Inside Media, music by Ryan Elder, logo by Janine Proct, and all of this is brought to you by RoomEscapeArtist.com, your home for well-researched, rational, and reasonably humorous escape room and immersive gaming content and events. Our convention, the Reality Escape Convention, is happening this August in Laval, Quebec, Canada. and you should come learn, play, and hang out with us. We will have the whole crew there. We'll have wonderful speakers, some fantastic games, and so much fun while we all learn together. Tickets are on sale now at realityescapecon.com, and you can use code REPOD50. That's REPOD 50 to save $50 on your ticket if you buy before the end of 2025. Get your tickets now. They will never be cheaper, and they will sell out. Thank you to our highest tier Patreon supporters: Derek Tam, Breakout Games, Escaparium, Pat Dupin of Olivier Escape, The Ministry of Peculiarities, Panic Room, Rex Miller, Mark of Keystone Escape Games, Byron Delmonico, Karen, Mystery Unfolds, and Andy Mincer. Thank you so much for your ongoing support. It means the world to us.
If you've made it all the way to the end of the episode, you're still here, looks like you had a pretty good time listening, we would love it if you took that good time and left us a review. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. It helps with making people find our podcast, and it even helps us with getting guests on the show.
And if writing a review is a bridge too far, just share the link to an episode that you like with someone who you think will appreciate it. Word of mouth, that is the thing that helps us grow. Thank you so much for supporting us, however you're doing it, whether it is on Patreon, with a review, or just sharing a link. We appreciate you. In the ending of this episode, I mentioned that Rita and Lisa and I used to play puzzle games once a month in a Panera in Union Square. And one day we were sitting there solving our puzzles, and us and all of the other patrons look up and find that there is a gentleman who is making out with a rat. He is holding the rat, cuddling the rat, and kissing the rat on the mouth. And the manager comes out and very gently asks this individual to please stop or leave. And this gentleman starts getting very angry about how society isn't respecting his love. And the manager asked for a police officer who was just outside to come in and deal with the situation. And to the NYPD's credit, the police officer handled this whole situation with an incredible amount of restraint and explained to this gentleman why it has nothing to do with whether or not he loves this rat. It's just that rats are not allowed in restaurants for a variety of health and safety reasons. And ushered this individual out and sent them and their rat on their way. And then we resumed puzzling.
Why'd they have to rat him out, David?
I support his rat love.
I support his rat love, just maybe not in the restaurant.
A lot of weird things happen in that restaurant.